Hello and welcome to Don't Tell Me to Relax, the fertility podcast here to guide you through the roller coaster of trying to conceive. I'm Hannah, your host, a fertility acupuncturist with clinics in London and across the UK. Our patients tell us how frustrated they feel about their lack of fertility education. So this podcast aims to provide all that education they never taught you in school, with the aim of putting you back in control of your fertility journey. We also have our fertility community to help address isolation and provide further information and support. To join us, the link is in the show notes. Before we get started with this bonus episode with Bex and Laura from the Worst Girl Gang Ever, I'm here to tell you about our upcoming course, Teaching to Conceive. It's 6 weeks of free fertility information, care and support from our team of experts. We're covering everything from sperm health to cycle tracking, investigations to mental health to what to have for your breakfast. To register for your place, just follow the link. Hello and welcome to Don't Tell Me to Relax. I am just saying that I was a little bit nervous and very excited because I've got two lovely, lovely people in front of me today. I've got Laura and Bex from the Worst Girl Gang, who actually I'm sure need no introduction, but I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves in case there is anybody out there who doesn't know who they are and what they do.
Well, hello, I'm Laura.
And hello, I'm Bex. And together we are Worst Girl Gang Ever.
So, can we go back right to the beginning? Because from my perspective, and I've only been on Instagram for about 4 years, I feel like you exploded in lockdown with the Worst Girl Gang. So can you tell us a bit about, is that what actually happened? Like, how did you start it? Was it an explosion? Like, it's just, you've done so much in this field of baby loss and miscarriage and infertility. Can you tell us, how did you get to where you are now?
Yeah, we can. We're quite well versed in this. So, yeah. So basically, it was 4 years ago. And I didn't really use Instagram at all up until this point. But 4 years ago, I went to, just before lockdown, I found out I was pregnant with my fourth child. And I went to the 12-week scan during the big lockdown, you know, the one where it was super, super restricted. And in the scanning room, I found out that my baby had no heartbeat and had died 2 weeks previously. And it made me realise overwhelmingly that I was incredibly ignorant into the topic. And I thought this because I didn't know what my body was going to do. I didn't know how I should react. I didn't know what it was going to be like physically. But actually, for me, the more so was the emotional, fallout after it. And for me, the emotional pain of losing a baby was more than I could have ever imagined. And I ignorantly thought that you were either someone who suffered miscarriages or you weren't. And because I had children already, I put myself in that latter category. And it completely took me out. And I think it was exacerbated by COVID and the fact that, you know, I couldn't see my mum and I couldn't see my friends. And obviously within the hospital environment, when I got the news, my husband at the time wasn't there and everyone had masks on and gloves on and all the, is it PPD? Is that what it was? PPN?
PPE.
PPE.
PPE?
PPE. Gosh, it was such a huge part of our lives and now we can't remember what it was. But anyway, all of that stuff just completely removed any sort of human experience from what I was going through. And I found it so isolating and painful. But in the sort of time after that, in the sort of start of the recovery process, no one talks about miscarriage. And I was starting to search the internet for support, and everything was so dry and resource-based and information-led. And really what I was yearning for was someone to tell me that I was going to be okay, or someone to tell me what had happened to them and how they dealt with it and how they managed it. And that they come out the other side or that they weren't hurting as much. I couldn't see an end to the pain. And I wanted someone to tell me that there was one. And then as time went on, I started to realise that actually there's nothing special about me. There is no reason that I should be feeling any different because I started to feel like my grief was disproportionate to my loss, and I started to feel like the fault was with me, and I wasn't dealing with things properly, and I couldn't get over it, and that was down to me and what was wrong with me. And then I just came to realize that there's nothing wrong with me, and I am one of thousands and thousands and thousands of women who go through this every year. And so I wrote about my experience and I shared it, and it was published by the Metro, and it was also shared on social media. And the response was phenomenal. Like the post that I wrote on social media, I posted on a couple of public groups, and it got like 20,000 likes, and I had over 2,000 people contact me. And for me, the biggest thing about that was there were people saying, I'm in a hospital now, I'm going through it now. And there were people saying, I've had this really recently, a year ago. But there were also a staggering number of women who were saying, I went through this 20 years ago. I'm in my 50s now, and I still think about the empty place at the table. I still think about the milestones. I still think about my baby every due date, when they should have been here. I still think that my baby should be here with my family. It's still a part of my narrative now. And what it made me realize was that this pain and this experience is buried. And it's buried because we don't talk about it, and we don't want to talk about it, and we don't acknowledge it because it's not aesthetically pleasing. It's ugly and it's brutal, and it's a private thing that women go through on their own. It's a woman's problem. And I just thought it's not right. And I was overwhelmed by the number of people that wanted to share their story, that wanted to talk about what they'd been through. And these people were saying that they'd never talked about it before, never mentioned it. So I created an online Facebook support group, and all these women were just telling their story. They were just sharing their story about their baby that never made it to the real world and how that made them feel. And I just felt like there was so much missing in the way of support, and what people, women, couples, families need in terms of support it just wasn't there. And that's when I met Laura.
Yes, it is. So my story is rather different to Bex's. And at the time of me so I first came across Bex on a Facebook Live. She was in her garden, the sun was shining, and she was having this passionate rant, which she's now like famous for, about how shitty it is after you go through miscarriage. And from my experiences, I completely agreed with her. So at the time of meeting, I had a 1-year-old. My eldest had just turned 1. But before him, I lost 7 pregnancies. I had an ectopic pregnancy. I had a molar pregnancy. I had missed miscarriages, chemical pregnancies, a vast array of experiences. And I struggled mostly with isolation when I was going through it. When I think back to that time, that's the biggest feeling that I get from it, feeling isolated. It was really strange to be surrounded by so many people, so many friends and family, your go-to people for support, the ones that you love most in the world, love you most in the world. And they just weren't able to give me what I needed in terms of support. And they tried, but I didn't feel understood. I didn't feel heard. I felt like I had to sort of dull down myself and what I was going through, put a game face on, pretend that everything was okay all the time. And the only real comfort that I found was when I was interacting with other people who'd been through similar experiences. So I joined this, so I started Trying for a Family in 2012. So this was pre all this stuff being on Instagram. This is back when Instagram was pictures of, poached eggs and avocado on toast, not anything to do with loss. And yeah, I joined this Facebook group, this American recurrent loss Facebook group. And I have nothing against Americans, but their health system's very different to ours. Like their testing, the names of their drugs, their specialists, their protocols, and all of that is all very different. I didn't really get much from it in that respect, but what I did get was I wrote on there as like a last ditch attempt, like, this is everything I've been through. I'm so scared. I'm never going to be a mum. Has anyone got any suggestions of things that we could try? I'm feeling, and then blah, 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 all the ugly feelings. I cannot handle the way I'm feeling. I hate my pregnant sister-in-law. I feel so bitter. I don't want to go out. I don't want to speak to anyone. I'm just a shell of myself. And what I got back was this overwhelming response of, oh my God, I feel like that as well. I hate my sister and I can't look at my pregnant next door neighbour. I feel like I'm never going to get there and everyone around me is. And that was the first time I really felt like I was understood. And they're the sort of things that I was scared to say to those close to me. Even sometimes when I said them to my husband, he'd say, can't you just be happy for them? And I think, well, okay, I can try, but no, in all honesty, I can't. I'm just so sad. Sometimes people say, I'm really happy for them, but I'm sad for me. I never felt that happiness for other people, honestly, truly. I was just sad. There was no happiness there. So going through this journey, I felt after I had my son, I really felt like I had been through so much and I could support people who were going through that now. I felt like I had survivor's guilt. I was out the other side of it with a successful pregnancy. I got what all those people wanted. And I know that when I was back there, I didn't want to hear from those people. I didn't want to hear from people like me who were out the other side. And I'd think, oh, well, it's all right for you because you've got your rainbow baby now. So I was really struggling with, I've got all of this experience that I can share to support other people. How do I do that? This is a bit weird coming from someone who's got a baby. And that was at the point when I found Bex, and she was, she already had 3 children. So I was like, okay, she's ranting about it. That I should be allowed to rant about it as well. It's okay. We've still been through these experiences, whether we have children or not. We've still got something to give to others. So we got chatting. I phoned. We phoned. I don't know who phoned who, but we phoned each other, and we were on the phone for an hour, just having a rant, swearing. I think there were probably a few tears, probably from Bex. She's usually the one who has a few tears.
Actually,
I'm known as the.
There.
And we decided we wanted to change the way that support looked. We both complimented each other with a hefty pair of lady balls, and decided, because it was lockdown and everyone was setting up podcasts, decided that we would too. We thought, what better way to destigmatise the topic and get people talking about it, remove the shame from it. What better way to do all that than to actually talk about it?
So is that how you started? I didn't realise. So you started with the podcast?
Yes.
We did podcast on the Instagram account at the same time. And then we fully expected the podcast just to be listened to by like our mums and our best mates. And the Instagram account, we didn't even really, everything that we've done has been really organic. We've never paid for advertising or anything like that, which, I mean, like your original question, which we've completely diverted from, was your Instagram page, did it go with as much as a bang as I feel it went? And the answer is yeah. And I remember the first time one of our posts got over 100 likes, we were like, oh my God, this is insane. Our post is... And the biggest thing about, because I've studied writing and I love writing, and the best way, and Laura wrote her book as well, and the best way that we could think of, or that I could think of, was to put everything I felt into words, like with little quotes and captions. And it was almost like a diary for me, like a blog. And because I love words and I love language, people started writing and saying, you've put into words everything that I've been feeling. And because I was in so much pain at the time, it was a real healing process for me as well. But being able to articulate how I felt seemed to really, really resonate with people. And I think that's why it was so popular, and people started sharing, because I think when you go through something as difficult and personal as loss, sometimes it's easier to share what someone else has said rather than to put your own words on it. So we found that people had started sharing our posts, and we just gained like traction and popularity really quickly. And equally with the podcast, we spoke the truth. Like, we spoke exactly how we felt. We didn't shy away from anything. We cried, but we also laugh. You know, we take the piss out of each other all the time. We sing and we talk about stuff that's nothing to do with baby loss. We talk about what's on telly and all of that stuff. And I think people really connected with that. And I remember someone left us a review saying it's like having a cup of tea with some friends. And that is exactly what we wanted to do. That's what we set out to do, is to make you feel like it's not, this is such a shit thing to go through, but you're not alone. And there's people that care, and there's love, and it doesn't make you not be a woman anymore. Because I think you can lose so much confidence in your ability to be a woman. I think our what we view as being a woman is been warped by what society expects of us historically. And I think what we've always wanted to do is sort of remain authentic in our abilities to be a woman. And that means like laughing, and that means singing, that means like fucking around and having fun. And just because you do all those things and you can find space for all things doesn't mean you're over your experience, doesn't mean it doesn't hurt anymore. It's just that we can hold a range of emotions at any one time. And what we really wanted to do with the podcast was give people the freedom to realise that without feeling guilty.
Yeah. And it's such an amazing leveler, isn't it? And I say that in that it's what you have created is like accessible, you know, being able to listen to a podcast and being able to and create a podcast and being able to use Instagram is such a good thing about, you know, everyone's always moaning about tech and all the internet and all that kind of stuff. But actually for situations like this, it's amazing because you can reach so many people that haven't been able to connect or reach each other before. And it's kind of like breaking down any like barrier or, you know, like reading a newspaper. Like I was thinking about where you'd got your information and support from years ago compared to where you get it now means that you're able to provide information and support to so many more people in a much more accessible way than we've ever done.
Yeah. I think the best thing about this as well is that lots of people, when they're in, especially in the initial stages of grief, they, and especially when they've had an early loss, they might not tell anyone about it. And you know, if they haven't had an earlier loss and it's a later one, they haven't got the words to talk about it. And so just to be able to listen to other people and feel like you're not alone is just so invaluable in those early days and onwards. But I think particularly in the early days, we hear from people who say, I was listening to you guys at 3:00 this morning, or I've taken up running again since my loss, and I just listen to you guys instead of listening to music, and I stop and I cry in the woods. And it's just so nice to be able to be there for those people, but they don't have to talk back to us. They don't have to verbalize those emotions. They can just feel understood.
They can they can engage in support without having to give anything else away, because baby loss takes away so much from you that when you don't have anything left to give, so you sort of start to need to build your resilience again. And we hope that listening to the podcast and being able to be an observer and on the sidelines, but able to receive that support helps you start to be able to cope.
Yeah. I also think there's something, isn't there, around like validating feelings, exactly as you said, Bex, before, around, you know, you should be feeling, you know, when you start to question how you're feeling, like, I shouldn't feel like this, I should have got over it by now, or, you know, why am I angry with that situation? You know, when you kind of, it's what I think, you know, your podcast does in platform is like validate people's feelings and say it's all right to feel like this, it's completely normal. And I think that it doesn't, you know, take away the pain, but it just takes away that second layer that comes when your own brain starts kind of having a go, and then you start feeling the guilt and the shame for the feelings. It's like even more exhausting than it already is dealing with the actual first pain, which is grief and loss. So it's so good, I think, for people to, when they see, oh, you know, this is what other people feel, it's really validating to people who might not feel that.
Yeah.
So other than the podcast and the Instagram, what other things do you offer? What other things do you have?
When you came in, Hannah, but people, so we had the Instagram and we were getting messages from people asking for more specific support. And, you know, Bex is a wedding photographer. I'm a nurse. Neither of us, when I say nurse, like A&E, like nothing to do with gynae or obstetrics or anything like that. Then neither of us is qualified to really be giving people any advice other than out from our own personal experiences. But people were asking us a lot more questions than we knew the answers to. So we thought, let's get some experts on board and create a course that will support, nurture, and empower people in the darkest depths of grief after loss. So we created the Pathway to Recovery.
And then so the Pathway to Recovery is basically supports women's wellbeing. So we got together and we were like, what would we have wanted? And I suppose we'd be going for about a year by this point. We're like, what would we have wanted from the outset through our experiences? And because our experiences are so different, we had a real range of ideas. But also it's interesting how essentially our experiences are so different. However, there was so much overlap in what we'd have wanted. So we put together things like, female reproductive health, which was where you came in, and fertility nutrition and relationship guidance and sex therapy. And we found experts in all these different areas and we got them to provide us with loads of content, and then we put it all into a course. And that's where the Pathway to Recovery came. And then people started saying, well, I feel like I'm over that kind of initial shit of grief, like that storm, but now I'm thinking about trying to conceive again and I'm terrified. So we curated another course about trying to conceive after loss and all the complexities of those situations. And then people went on and they fell pregnant and they were terrified during pregnancy. So we curated another course for pregnancy after loss, and it all just really organically developed. And then, but we charged people for these because by this time we'd both given up a lot of what we were doing in our careers and our jobs to focus on this help that we were giving people. And that never really sat well with us because we don't believe, like, we came from a place where we don't believe that the support you need you should have to pay for it. And while our Facebook support groups and our podcast and our Instagram page are obviously always free, we had to charge people to come on courses to enable us to work more. So we did that, and then we wanted to make it more accessible financially. So we took all of the stuff that we've ever put on a course and we put it in a monthly membership and reduced the price. So people paid like much less on a monthly basis. And that was what we called our warriorship. And that's our monthly membership platform that we still run. But still with this, we don't want to charge. Like we really, really feel like it's not right. And that's what we want. That is our ultimate game, is to live in a world where the experience of miscarriage, baby loss and infertility is understood and support is readily accessible and available. That is our big goal. So about 18 months, are we saying this? What, are we talking about the charity?
I can release, when are you announcing the charitable status?
Next week,
October.
today.
Oh yeah. So I'll release it after you've done it.
Okay, fine. And we talked about being a charity right at the beginning. And it's sort of an idea that lingered with us. But about 18 months ago, we came to a decision that we wanted to do what we do for free. We wanted to be able to be that support, but without it having any bearing on your financial status, whether you could access it or not. So we started the process to become a charity, which is onerous. And we were tomorrow, and it was like hurdling red tape galore. And of course, we're doing all this alongside still the podcast and the warriorship and the courses. And then in June this year, we received the information that we are now a registered charity. So our launch is
amazing.
Was by then the 1st of October. And we've got some amazing plans to ultimately to that goal. And we're really, really excited about it.
I mean, it is just incredible. It's absolutely bloody amazing that you've done that, because, I mean, I can barely fill in a form to go to, I don't know, I can't do anything these days in terms of like administration, red tape, attention to detail, all that stuff that you must have had to have done to get that charitable status. I cannot even imagine how you've done that.
Yeah, well, we're not very good at it either. We did get declined twice and had to pay someone to help us do it.
Yeah. But it's amazing. What does it actually mean when you have it? What does it mean?
Well, it just means for us, it means fundraise and we can apply for grants and funding. I mean, it's still going to be a lot of work and a lot of kind of time and more form filling and attention to detail and all of that sort of stuff. But as we've gone for the last just over 4 years, you know, we've had to get good at stuff. It's only ever been me and Laura. And although, we have had help from a wonderful, wonderful woman who we definitely couldn't have achieved charitable status without, shout out to Katie, there is still...
Sorry.
That
There's still... it's all a growth experience. It's all a learning curve. And that's what we've been from the beginning, is some stuff has worked really well and some stuff hasn't. And we've had to learn from the stuff that hasn't and then focus on the stuff that has. So we know so much more about charities and how they run than we did this time last year. And we will know so much more again this time next year. So it's just about improving our skill sets, I think, and learning how to do a lot of this, because I'm terrible at red tape admin. I've got ADHD and forms is just really not my thing. But I've had to get good because that's the only way that we've been able to get where we are.
and how are you fitting it all in?
Yeah.
Because you've got jobs, you've got families, this is a lot. Do you have acupuncture? You do have acupuncture, don't you? Tell me you have acupuncture.
I do, yeah.
No, anymore.
So how do you do it then? How do you fit in all this in?
We have said in the past, we said the good thing about there being two of us is that we've never had a breakdown at the same time. So when one of us has a wobble, the other one can pick up. But actually, in the last 6 months, we've both had breakdowns. So it's been proper. I don't mean like medical, but I mean like, emotional. Fuck, I can't do this. And like I'm going through a divorce and I'm a single mum to 4 kids, and it's fucking like, it's harder. Life feels harder now than it ever has done in some ways. But the beauty of it is that I've used so much from what we do to pull myself up and out and get out the door. And all the stuff that we put in the courses is so well-being focused that I've been able to use the tools that we've been teaching for 4 years to enable me to cope with life as it is now. And there's no denying it. It's really hard, and we both work at night, and we have to, plan things around the school run, and obviously that's an incredible privilege to be able to say that I can do that. But it definitely takes its toll. But for me personally, when I'm feeling at my lowest, and believe me, there have been some lows over the past year, when we get a message or an email and it's from a woman who literally says, I don't know where I'd be without you guys, and this is going to make me really emotional, because honestly, when we get these messages, like we'll get a message from Instagram saying, you saved my life. And when you receive that, it just makes you realize that everything is worth it. And we are doing, we're working so hard, but we are doing a really good thing. And to have someone holding your hand and offering you that hug, even though it isn't in real life, even though it's just via social media or a podcast, to be able to offer that to someone is such a huge privilege that always takes me out of where I am in my personal life and makes me think, God, this is incredible. Like, this is great. This is good. I'm doing a good thing. And that for me is enough to get me through like the kind of ordinary everyday shit that we have to kind of do.
Yeah, it is really hard. But we, with the launch coming up, we did a shout out on social media asking people for video testimonials to help us with some of our promo stuff that we're developing. And we've got loads of these video testimonials that have been coming through since last Friday. And actually, I might just keep some of them on my phone to watch whenever I feel like throwing in the towel and giving up, because it's just so humbling to hear these messages from people. Really special.
Yeah. I have a little folder that I keep of messages that I get because they literally make my day. You know, sometimes you just think, am I just a knob on Instagram? Is this doing anything?
Well,
And then, you know, and then you get something and you just think, if you've made a difference to one person, if they've learned something that they didn't know before, they felt connected or supported, you think, okay, it's worth being a knob on Instagram for. And so, yeah,
well, that's
yeah,
what we used to
it's
say.
amazing.
If
What
we
you do
can
is amazing.
help one woman feel less alone, then we've
Yeah.
had success. But now we want every woman to feel less alone, and that's why we want to make it all free and accessible to everyone.
So now going forward with the launch of the charitable status, what does the future, what's coming next? What are your plans?
We're going to be asking people for money. Number one.
Yeah.
Well, the plan is to open the doors of the warriorship. Once we've got enough money in the bank, open the doors of the warriorship so that we can make that accessible to all. We didn't mention in there that we were asked to write a book back in 2022. HarperCollins approached us and asked us to write a book, and we wrote The Worst Girl Gang Ever. It's a survival guide for miscarriage and pregnancy loss. It's a really special book. It's got lots of expert information in there. It's got lots of people who've been on the podcasts with us and their own personal experiences. And it's just like it's like someone's holding your hand through those first few months of grief. We talk about trying to conceive after loss and pregnancy after loss as well. And we want that book to be accessible to all as well. I think Bex touched on leaving the hospital with black and white leaflets, all this information and resources. And actually what you need is a hug and some like proper guidance on how the hell you survive this. And so instead of leaving hospital with a black and white leaflet, we want people to leave with our book, our colourful book with words of love and support. So that will be our next mission after opening the doors of the warriorship. And then who knows?
Great.
We've got lots of ideas. We've got a wonderful board of trustees who are giving us a lot of support and guidance. We're very, very excited about everything that's to come.
I think ultimately, we want to do more in the way of education. Like we've been to a couple of conferences this year for midwives, like midwifery conferences, student midwives, and medical professionals, and we want to do more of that, like how to support people properly in that space. We've uncovered some pretty traumatic stuff about how people get trained to give the news, which essentially there isn't really, as far as we can understand. There's no training on what language to use and that sort of stuff. So that's the stuff that we want to dip our toes into, and also advocacy in terms of where people are told this information, what happens to them, all that sort of stuff is what we really, really ultimately want to focus on: education, advocacy, and also this, and obviously the support.
Yeah. Amazing. So you've got lots of events going on this month. Like, what have you got planned for I presume it's going on for the whole of October, all your events?
Yep.
Yeah. They are.
What have you got coming up?
So we've got a full calendar for October. We have got a mixture of we're asking people to sign up to our email list, and then if they do, they will be in the month-long support. There'll be emails going out every day, but more than that, there'll be Instagram lives with experts. We're also running a few webinars and sessions, which you need to be on the email list to be getting the links for those. We're getting a lot of people involved. We want to make a big, so that everybody knows that the Worst Girl Gang Ever has become a charity.
Well, I will put all the details on this show, and I will make sure that it goes out we'll time it well to go out so you can get maximum number of people, because I know so many people who follow this podcast or come into our clinic. I know so many people who've reached out and worked with you in one way or another and have found it invaluable. So I'll put all those details there. So Bex and Laura, thank you so much for your time, because I know you are super busy, so I really appreciate you coming on and telling us all about it.
Thanks
Thank you so much. Thank you for everything you do as well. We love working with you so much, and we love the realness and the honesty you bring to your work as well. It's just incredible. Come on this chat. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. We hope you have found this episode helpful. If you'd like to leave us a review, we would love you to bits. And if you'd like more support for your fertility, you can come and work with us in clinic. We're based in London and around the UK, or you can work with us online. For more information, see the link at the end of the show. Before we get started with this bonus episode with Bex and Laura from the Worst Girl Gang Ever, I'm here to tell you about our upcoming course, Teaching to Conceive. It's 6 weeks of free fertility information, care and support from our team of experts. We're covering everything from sperm health to cycle tracking, investigations to mental health to what to have for your breakfast. To register for your place, just follow the link.